I have been making my other channel for the past 5 years, and you probably know it. It's called Liv Kissper ASMR. So that's Olivia for relaxation and Liv for empowerment. But today I want to confess something. I have been making these videos mostly to calm people down, to help them with their anxiety and to sleep, to fall asleep. And at the same time, I felt this huge responsibility building inside of me that was screaming, saying, well, this will ultimately not help anyone because it can help in short term. And sometimes it's super important that we do have access to something that's calming at the time. But at the same time, it doesn't cure the cause of our suffering or of anxiety or stress. And so today I'm going to make a very personal video to illustrate a point and to tell you about my own journey of emotional healing. Even though I don't like the word healing, let's call it emotional integration. But healing is something that people can really relate to. So I'm going to be describing my own journey, particularly one journey that I've been through and the methodology I have been developing that goes way beyond inner child healing. And it's not going to be very long because when I go into the same process with clients, it usually takes a little bit more steps to go really deep. But with me, when I do that by myself, it's really quick because I already know where I'm going. So there was a time in my life when I was really so confused. And so I was having some open relationships. And even though I really wanted to have one committed relationship with one person, I just found myself over and over in open relationships with other men. And I started having strong anxiety and anxiety attacks. So this one particular moment, I remember I was going to acro yoga and I was going there and there was one person that I had a crush on and he was in an open relationship. And this was a moment after so many times when I was telling myself, well, I'm not going to be doing anything with guys who are open because I know exactly what I want. But on the way there, I started feeling, actually the whole day I was having really attacking thoughts. And on the way there, I started having my panic attack or panic and anxiety attack, and I was crying and I couldn't even go there and I was going home. And in that state, because it was quite strong because it was building up inside of me and I wasn't really listening to this guidance, what was going on. So this time I remembered to do my healing. So I did, and I'm going to describe this process to you. So whenever I feel or people feel anxious or they have anxiety attacks, it's a very special moment. Most people try to avoid it and to pacify it and to get rid of because it's extremely uncomfortable. But there is something super useful. There is something super important and that happens in that altered state of consciousness. That's how I would call it, because when we are strongly emotionally triggered, we are in a completely different state of consciousness. So this is a time when you can go into an inner journey without any substances. You can easily enter a state which is like a dreamlike almost state, and you can access so much more information that's happening inside. And it's a way to open these doorways or portals into your higher self and higher guidance too. But we just need to really stay with it and know how to do that. So when I was feeling super triggered by this incident, I went home and I sat down on my porch in the jungle, and I closed my eyes and I went straight away inside, and I was asking myself, how am I feeling, and just staying with those feelings. And I was asking myself, what am I? And I found myself, and this is where the dreaming starts. This is where my imagination kicks in, but at the same time I can get so much more information from what you can call imagination, but at the same time it feels really powerful and accurate, and I always get some insights out of it. So I found myself, the way I was feeling, I was standing on a frozen lake. It was infinite, maybe it was an ocean. And I couldn't walk. Every time I walked, it felt really slippery. Like it was so dangerous to just walk, because that's how I felt in my life. You know, like every step felt really dangerous. I wasn't making any good decisions. And then I looked underneath. I looked below me, and I saw there were people underneath the ocean. And so I went inside and I asked myself more questions. And I looked around, and I looked for my inner child. Sometimes it can be inner child, sometimes it can be a little gremlin, or it can be a little animal. But this time I was looking for the inner child because I kind of sensed it had something to do with it. And I found it. And my inner child was frozen in between this world and the world underneath. It was frozen in ice. And I was looking at her, and she looked like what I remember from photos when I was little. So it was very moving to me. And as I was experiencing this, I was crying. And when I was crying, my tears were coming down, and it was melting this ice, and I was experiencing it really vividly, and the ice was melting. And then the little girl, she just was coming out of this ice, waking up, and as soon as she opened her eyes, she started screaming so hard. And it really, wow, like this scream, I didn't, I could totally relate, even though like I had no idea that it was like so much intensity in it. But yeah, it totally reflected how I felt inside. You know, she was screaming inside and I wasn't paying attention to her. That's why I was having anxiety attacks. And oh, it's so hot in here. I'm just like super nervous, but just stay with me. I'm going to go into this inner child. So I was holding her and I was comforting her, and I was telling her I was with her now. And that felt really amazing because we both were crying and she was getting more comfortable. Like now I was with her rather than just ignoring her the whole time. And so I was asking her what she wanted and what she needed. And she said that she needed to matter. And so we were crying some more because I realized I didn't make her matter in my decisions in my life and what she wanted. And then I gave her some hugs and some love and sent her so much more empathy. And when I was holding her, I asked her if she had any gift for me. And without hesitation, she just handed me in her little hand a little heart pendant. And so I took it and put it in my chest. And she told me that I will find my courage only once I find what really matters to me in my life. And that was so touching and so beautiful. So as I had this heart in my chest, it melted inside of my body and it became me. I promised her that she's the number one now for me and that she really matters, like physically matters to me. And so when I said that, I've seen this little smile on her face, on her mouth, and it was just really beautiful. And then we spent some time together a little bit more. And after that, I asked her if she was ready to go inside to see what's underneath the ice, because I saw some people in there. They were just like moving around. It was like another world. They could breathe. So she felt a little bit unsure, but I was holding her hand. And so slowly she decided that we can go there. And I was also showing her the water was warm. It kind of came in between my imagination. I could sometimes manipulate the environment a little bit. So we both jumped in and we were swimming in this ocean, which was nice and warm, and our hair were flying around, and we were seeing all these people. There were some people just dancing, some people having conversations, some people crying, some people having sex, some people making friends, just like families, just so many different worlds. And we were just floating and observing, and we saw all of these people like in a movie because it was in a slow motion, so we could really stay detached and saw like all of this, what was happening in the world is something that is simply happening without any meaning that I would be normally infusing my experiences with. And it was really beautiful, and I just felt her soft hand, and she was calming down and I was calming down, and that was really helping my own anxiety going through different experiences in my life, where I would normally feel triggered, and now we saw everything and we just stayed together really soft and loving. And then we swam a little bit deeper, and the deeper we went, all the people were more like children and smaller, and suddenly we were quite deep and everyone was just child, all these children, and they were crying and screaming just like she was before. The deeper we went, there were even more of them, and they were piled up, and there were just so many of them that suddenly we couldn't even swim anymore. Just all these little children, that what was happening underneath this world of people who haven't done any emotional healing, but we stayed really connected to ourselves, and it was just so beautiful to be able to observe that and not being attached to any outcomes. And suddenly this whole ocean just turned into one big scream, and then all these bodies just become water, and the deeper we swam together, it was like so vivid in my imagination. The deeper we swam together, it just became water, like any matter became water. And suddenly it was just me, or I don't know, I just disappeared, she disappeared. It was just this observing this ocean. Suddenly it was quiet and beautiful, and just water and vastness and everythingness, and just this connectedness to everything else. And it was so moving to stay in that state. It completely reflected how I felt inside. So calm, so quiet, so beautiful, so empowered. And so I stayed there for a few moments. And then when I opened my eyes, I found myself sitting on my porch in my house and facing the wall of the jungle and the trees and the beautiful birds singing. And I was crying from so much gratitude I had by coming back into this world and by being able to connect with my inner child and doing this healing. And afterwards, it just felt so beautiful. And I just stay always connected with this, what really matters deeply to me. And then I was able to take actions from there because I've really connected to that and did this healing. And I remember from that moment really experiencing a big shift in my life. And this was a very simple journey that I've been through, but it was so impactful in my life in so many different ways that I wanted to share it with you. And as I said, each journey looks completely different, and for completely different people. Some people don't see things as clearly as I do, so there's like different processes for that. But once we do our emotional healing or emotional integration, because we have all these little children buried literally underneath inside of our bodies or consciousnesses, and they're waiting for us to be there truly for them, to see what really matters to us. And when that happens, when that connection really happens, wow, it's what a gift. Because then not only that you get rid of your anxiety, but you will also get this lost resource that I talked to you before about. And it's really amazing to do it with someone who is triggered in that particular moment. But at the same time, it's good to know all these different tools to go deep inside whenever any kind of anxiety happens. Because when we don't have the tools, then we project it outside and we blame whoever is outside. But actually we can just do our healing and we get empowered, and then we relate to the world completely in a different way. So I hope you like this little video for inspiration. Maybe you're going through the same or similar things that I've been talking about. Maybe you feel anxiety sometimes and it keeps coming back, and sometimes less. Or even worse, we are used to just avoiding these situations where anxiety happens, and then our life is just revolving around our avoidance. So it's very limiting. And yeah, let me know if you like this video, share it, comment, and if you have any more questions, put them in the comments, or just shoot me a message through my contact that I'm leaving in the description. If you want to find out more about what I do, I'm actually using different techniques, not only the inner child healing and shamanic journeys, but also some integrative work and anything that revolves around so-called emotional healing. So thank you so much for watching, and how far are you willing to go to really live unbound?